Okay, so I mentioned in the previous episode Göbekli Tepe, the big giant spanner in the works when it comes to our ancient past and what we thought we knew and what we know now and all that jazz. Okay, it was discovered in 1994. Okay, 26 years we've known about this place. But if you Google what was the oldest civilization, if you Google when was farming first created, if you Google what's the oldest cities, where do people come from, pretty much regardless what you Google, the internet's going to throw up, 4,000 BC, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. They're the ballpark figures that you're going to get. Even though we know for an absolute certainty Göbekli Tepe is 11,700 years old. Sorry, let me rephrase that. We know that Göbekli Tepe is at least 11,700 years. Call it 12 for short. Okay, we fucking know this. Is there some sort of internet lag that I'm not aware of that has a 26-year delay in updating all this stuff? And the thing I don't think I hammered home quite enough the last time, which I'm going to try and get across here, is if we are so incredibly wrong about how old our species' civilization is, what the fuck else are we so wrong about? And this is even weirder because we know Göbekli Tepe is that old. We've known it for 26 fucking years. So what about all the things that we haven't actually discovered or figured out yet? And we're just basing it on what people said when they first discovered it 20, 50 or 100 years ago. Fucking madness, lads. But again, why am I harping on about all these different things? What does it matter? Who cares? Okay? So my understanding of it is, or the way that I like to look at it is, you can't understand the present without understanding the past. It's like trying to explain to somebody how a skyscraper can go 50 stories high without telling them what kind of a foundation it has. You need to know the unknown bits. You need to know the old bits. You need to know where all this stuff comes from. But getting back to its relevance, okay? In ancient Egypt, you're talking 6,000 odd years ago, okay? There was a god called Horus. He was their top dog god. He was the god of the sun. He was the sun god. A lot of these ancient civilizations worship the sun. The reason being, think of what you'd have without it. Think of what would happen if the sun didn't rise in the morning. You just have perpetual darkness and death and disease and all the rest of it, okay? The world would end if the sun didn't rise in the morning. So it's no surprise that our ancient ancestors worshipped it and were thankful for it. But getting back to Horus, Egyptian sun god, just as it happens, had an adversary called Set. Now Set was the god of darkness, basically, the god of nighttime, who fought Horus, who was the god of day, the sun god. Now maybe the fact that this Egyptian god's name was Set, maybe that has nothing to do with the sun setting. I doubt it. Language was started back here, lad, probably previously, but until we get a grip of how our language came about, we're going to struggle to understand why we speak the way we speak now. Linguistics is another episode I'm going to have to do, man. Fucking fascinating shit is language. But anyway, I digress. Horus and Set used to fight twice a day. They'd fight in the morning and Horus would win, which would mean the sun would rise. They'd fight in the evening, Set would win, and then it would be darkness, okay? Why am I telling you about an Egyptian sun gods? Well, here's a couple of interesting tidbits about Horus that you might be familiar with. Born on the 25th of December, an incredibly specific date, but there you go. Born on the 25th of December, just so happened to be born to a virgin. Weird. His birth was accompanied by a star in the east. Upon his birth, he was adorned by 3 kings. At the age 12, he was a prodigal teacher. At the age 30, he was baptized and began his ministry. He had 12 disciples. He travelled around with these 12 disciples performing miracles like healing the sick and walking on water. He was known as the truth, the light, God's anointed son, the good shepherd, and the Lamb of God. He was betrayed by some dude called Typhon, subsequently crucified, buried for 3 days, and you'll never guess what happened after 3 days. He fucking resurrected. How mad is that? Okay? Oh, so I've picked one god from thousands of years ago that happens to have a lot of crossover with a certain Mr. Christ. Well, what about the oldest known religion that we know of, Hinduism, which comes out of the Indus River Valley situation? Why do I struggle so much with that? Hinduism comes out of the Indus River Valley civilization. Jesus wept. The top dog in Hinduism was a dude called Krishna. You'll never guess what I found out about Krishna. Born to a virgin, preceded by a star in the east, performed miracles with his disciples, and when he died, you'll never guess what happened. You betcha he fucking resurrected. But wait, there's more. What about Dionysus? From Greece. Now again, Greece isn't a fucking too far of a stone's throw from the area that I'm talking about. It's a hop, skip and a jump on a boat from either Mesopotamia or Egypt. But anyway, born on an incredibly specific date. You guessed it, the 25th of December. He was a travelling teacher who performed miracles. A miracle including turning water into wine, believe it or not. That's some fucking trick to play at a wedding. He was known as the King of Kings, God's only begotten son, and when he died, you guessed it, he resurrected himself. Okay, but wait, there's more. What about Mithra? Mithra was the Persian god. Persia was basically where Iran is now. So the Middle East. We're talking Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent again here, lads. What day was it he was born on? It was the 24th to the 26th of December. I can't really remember. We'll call it the 25th for the crack. Born on the 25th of December to, you guessed it, a virgin. How many pals did he hang around with, do you think? You guessed it again. He had 12 pals he pallied around with. He performed miracles. He rose people from the dead. Died. Guess what happened 3 days later? You betcha he resurrected himself. He was known as the truth, the light, and was worshipped. You'll never guess what day of the week they worshipped him on. You getcha. Sunday. They worshipped the sun god on a Sunday. Who'd have fucking thunk it? Why am I talking about all this stuff? I'll tell you why. Because this is where all our religions come from. It's where all our language comes from. It's where all our fucking prejudices come from. It's where all our hopes, fears, and dreams come from. You cannot understand either the past, the present, or the future without going back as far as you fucking can and figuring out where we came from, how we separated ourselves from animals, how we ended up living in fucking towns, where broadband came from. Like all these different things, you pair it all back and it all comes back to the same fucking places, the same ancient civilizations that we know so little about. But not nothing. There are certain things that we do know that it's pretty much unforgivable that aren't more widely known. Göbekli Tepe being 12,000 years old being one of them. And more important than knowing about Göbekli Tepe being 12,000 years old, the wider point there is we've known that for 26 years and it just, for whatever reason, just hasn't sank in. And there's so much that we know, we preoccupy ourselves so much with the latest results on everything. It's like, oh, they found this new thing, and oh, they think this thing might be somewhere or whatever. All these cutting edge discoveries, but we're just ignoring the stuff that we know and have known for decades. I've gotten into breathing quite a lot, believe it or not. So have I, says you. But I've been breathing through my nose now for the last maybe 2 months, or at least trying to. And there's a guy, oh fuck, I'll be back in a split second. Told you I'd be back in a split second. There's a guy called James Nestor. I first was introduced to him on Joe Rogan. So if you just Google James Nestor and Joe Rogan, his podcast will be pulled up. But anyway, what he's put me onto is the benefits of breathing through your nose, or nasal breathing. He makes the claim that the reason we have crooked teeth is because we breathe through our nose, believe it or not. Now, I'm going to do a whole separate episode on breathing alone. I want to talk a little bit about Wim Hof. Actually, a good few of you, I believe, are doing the Wim Hof breathing challenge. I say a good few of yous and leaving myself out there because, I'm be honest with you lads, I completely fell off that bandwagon entirely. I did it for 2 or 3 days and just kind of forgot about it. The thing I don't like about it is, and this is I don't mean to take away from Mr. Hoff. I think he's a fucking legend. I think he's class, and I think people should do his breathing exercises. So if you've been doing them or thinking of doing them, I think you should either start or continue to do them. But what I prefer with nasal breathing is I've been breathing through my nose, or at least trying to, for a couple of months. That's a lifetime thing. The Wim Hof breathing, it's great, you should do it, but the odds of it being a lifetime thing are relatively slim. But anyway, I'm getting fucking distracted. Never mind Wim Hof, never mind breathing. The wider point being, there are things that we know. That's what brought me onto breathing. We know all this. Everything that James Nestor says, he didn't have to go out and prove it. He's looking at research that's been done this 10, 20 plus years. The science is in on this. It's not disputed. We should be breathing through our fucking noses and not our mouths for 101 different reasons. But again, it's just another good example of knowledge that we have that we're not fucking using. Everybody's mad for more knowledge and to discover new things and to create newer, better, faster technologies, but we're not utilizing what we fucking have and what we've had for God knows how many fucking decades or centuries or fucking millennia. And I'll chat to you tomorrow. But before I let you go, I'd just like to remind everybody that this episode and all the episodes on YouTube have been brought to you by past guest and friend of the show, Pat McKeown. Pat is very similar to myself insofar as that he's long had an interest in the mind and more specifically the brain and how they both interact, to such an extent that he went and spent 4 years getting a degree in neuroscience and then spent a further year in getting a master's in psychology. Now what he's done is pretty fucking cool. He's after setting up his own YouTube channel. It's called Pat Psychology Masters and there's a link in the description. Now what he's done here is he's uploaded all the best bits that he's learned over the last 5 years and put them into short, plain English, easy to understand YouTube videos for the likes of myself. His YouTube channel has been a massive resource for me in understanding both my mind and the mind of others. So hit up Pat Psychology Masters YouTube channel, subscribe, give it a like and a comment and a share, all that kind of stuff helps, and I'll chat to you soon.